Alrighty, we're back in session. Okay, so any other comments or questions regarding the easement notice that's in front of us? Councillor Wall.
I have formulated a motion in these 2 minutes in a way that I believe does not violate any statute or law.
Okay.
Regarding an open session.
Yeah.
I am motioning to direct staff to review bylaw enforcement regarding ticketing services, including service level reviews from reactive to proactive.
Can I get a
To
seconder?
bring it back to us for information at the next available session.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Johnston. Any discussion regarding the motion that's now on the floor? Councillor Travel?
So, sorry, this was for bylaw enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. And what you mean by reactive versus proactive would be reactive is responding to complaints and inquiries versus proactive is actively observing and seeking out?
Actively observing and seeking out obvious issues going on within the community.
Okay.
I'm not asking for anything to be changed. I'm asking for a report
For a review.
and a review to take place to see what our options are to make sure that similar situations don't reoccur again.
And then the proactive nature would be through the administrative records and on the ground, because there's a whole bunch of different avenues a person can take here.
There's a lot of avenues someone can take here. I just want to see what our options are before we continue to discuss this in public.
So identifying the different methodologies involved with active
Where we are and what we could be doing. I want to see where we are and what we could be doing better to prevent situations like this.
Okay.
and then a cost associated or no? Because that'd be hard to anticipate.
Well, that'd be part of the service.
That'd be part of the service level conversation, the service level review.
So it's identifying the different methodologies associated with the different types, but then also identifying the costs potentially associated with those.
More simply, I'm asking if what we are doing now is the best way for the village of Coos-Coopee to be operating regarding our bylaw enforcement. So looking at what we are doing and what other places do in slightly differently to see if maybe we have more cost-effective or more stringent options here that could help the community. Right? Just look at it and see where we're at and see where we could be and what those costs might be going forward. No decision being made, just let's look at it. If we're having this conversation, let's look to see how we can prevent future situations like this from occurring. Let's be proactive. Maybe we're doing everything right. I don't know. That's what needs to be looked into.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the motion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, and then the motion on the floor, all those in favor of receiving for information? Thank you. That is carried. All right, moving on to...
Thank you, Your Worship, for the recess.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Hey, I've pulled that card multiple times. Let's be honest. All right, recommend correspondence. Sorry, anything under correspondence that you would like to list? This is a correction. You don't need a motion for that.
It's just fine. It's just how it's submitted.
Okay. All right. All those. What would you like to list, Councilor?
I motion to accept all information items as information.
All correspondence.
They're all correspondence as information. My apologies.
Well, just as a point for public observation, I'm simply just letting the mayor know that there's a small typo in the report as presented. It's nothing secret. It's simply, I just wanted to point it out because of its minor nature. I don't wish to belabor the body with that.
Were you seconding the motion to receive for information? Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
With the amendment, can I make an amendment to my motion? With the amendment of the minor correction.
Yeah.
No, because it's from a party that submitted it to us.
Yeah,
Therefore,
so
it's submitted
Well,
as
then I don't have an amendment.
And nobody seconded it, so you're fine. All right. Any other discussion regarding receiving all the correspondence for information? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to reports. Councillor Johnston, what you been up to?
We not doing the administrative.
Oh shit. I mean, oh.
She said that.
I know. Sorry about that. Resolutions, there are none. Bylaws, there are none. Administrative CAO report. Recommendation that council accepts the CAO report outlining the Village Kooskookie CAO activities from December 19th to January 3rd as information. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Wall, I apologize, I'm so sorry. I was off in my own little world. I was having a moment. I'm so sorry.
You almost come with you.
Oh my gosh. Mr. Savolsky.
We're gonna need one of those sensors
Oh,
and
my
we're beeps about.
A swear jar.
I don't think I've ever done that in the 2.5 years of
It
it.
shows all of our French is pretty sharp.
Yeah.
So pretty much just outlining the CAO activity reports and corporate officer activities in this report from December 19th to January 3rd. It's a little bit of a consolidated timeline, so not as thorough of an overview of activities as we're accustomed to, but we have a few different items here. It's mostly the consolidated user fee bylaw and some of the progress that's been made on that. We do have a working meeting on January 13th with all senior staff, so we can make some monumental progress on that consolidated user fee bylaw and have it up for public review, hopefully for the February town meeting. We do have a attached communication after the CAO report, just outlining the water agreement with the city of Dawson Creek, as well as the impending 10.76% service fee increase.
Boo.
Well, we'll try to refrain from that as well, but things happen. Outlined in that report, we do actually talk about some of the benefits of having a third-party sister agreement in this nature. Not taking on these long-term asset management costs, not taking on the requirement for level 2 to level 4 water treatment plant operators, which if you go across any civic, exactly, Councillor Woodall, I appreciate you fomenting that gesture, because if you look at majority of civic public servant employment positions and job boards, about 60% of the positions you're going to see are water treatment operators. And they are making a pretty penny these days. A lot of them are on par with some, senior level administration staff. So again, us not having that long-term burden is a blessing in itself. Especially with the fact that turnover in that industry happens about once every 18 months for a small municipality of our size. So we would be feeding that well of trying to onboard someone consistently. And the thresholds of onboarding, even just a level 2 operator, is almost 1,500 hours inside the plant. So, you need a lot of in-house operational capacity to pull these types of service levels off. So as much as we may see the negative in a 10.76% service level increase for a water agreement, there are still some silver linings in this situation, and that is outlined in the communication report that you have in front of you. Some of the things we are working on is it's budget time, where we're hammering this out. In future years, we're going to be starting this process in October and November, so we can have a service fee bylaw constituted and ratified by January 1st of every fiscal year. That's always a best practice. But for this year, we are working in a little bit of an abbreviated timeline. So we do have some listed dates here, which are all respectively Wednesdays, not coinciding with our council meeting schedules or town meeting schedules. So we'll be looking at potentially February 19th for a public consultation on O&M and capital budgets, user fees, and tax rates, including a public engagement exercise on what constitutes the formula for these increases. So we were talking about service level cost. Overhead, that is correct, Council. Yeah. Overhead costs, long-term capital costs, all those things that we had in the previous discussion. March 5th will be the follow-up public hearing for us to move forward with what we believe is a ratified budget level. March 19th would be the special meeting for first reading and ratification of taxation, budgets, and user fees. And then for our regular council meeting on March 26th, we are targeting final approval and adoption with everything taking effect for April 1st.
I would just like to note, everybody, if you could add these dates to your calendar if you're interested in attending, especially the special meeting, please add that to your calendar. Please and thank you. And then Councillor Wall.
I really appreciate the layout of this. Has this been mailed out yet?
No, this is for public office review first.
Could I make a suggestion to this form? As the first suggestion on here is increase both taxes and service rates. This is very similar, not the same way, but similar to the fire hall thing, where the first option was close the fire hall, where it got people all riled up about it. I think our first option should be either just increase service rates or increase taxes to make up the difference. Or just because the first thing that hits your eye is, oh, well, we're going to increase taxes and service rates.
Well, we're outlining 4 different options here. We want the public process to be part of those 4 different options.
Of
And
course,
these
of
4
course.
options are increase both taxes and service rates, increase taxes only,
But the
Increase service rates
scariest
are-
option
No.
is the first option. So
but it's also the most real option. We may be looking at a situation where we're looking at both service rate increases and taxation rate increases. We have to treat everyone like they're the adults they are, and let them know that this is a monumental task that we're up against. Everyone here pretty much ran on the platform that these changes would be coming at some point. Well, we have to stick to them. I understand that it would be nice to maybe burn that news in a little bit of a different way, but I don't think we can run around from this.
Councilor Rebel?
You could maybe muck with the order, but if possible, could tangible examples be tied to each version?
Absolutely.
So for a household of this and this much consumption would result in 2% here, 4% here, or whatever. This would be your taxes. If we tied it to tangible examples, because just saying, well, if a layman looks at it and purely thinks, well, both are going up, it must be double, right? I want to just choose just the service rate.
Oh, like an average family, like put it like a number. Average family of 4
Yeah.
living in a $250,000 house. What's
So a family of
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
living in a bed and a house for each of the different examples to give people numbers to chew on so they can see, oh, this is going to be, $100, $200, $300, whatever it may be, right?
So that was a note that I make. That's what we normally do. When it comes to percentages look scary. People often think that when Coos Cuby raises taxes to 10%, they're making $500,000 extra a year, and we're only making $25,000 a year. So it's just, when you're looking at such a large number, you're not thinking about actually the size within the municipality. So we do like to actually tie a financial
I have it ready for you.
hard.
These examples?
Sorry, ready?
Groovy.
I have 5, 7, and 10%.
Perfect.
So we can chew on that in camera and see what that looks like. It just hasn't been associated yet with this communication, just due to the fact that we haven't determined what that rate is yet. Is it going to be a 5% increase? It will be a 7% increase. Will be a 10% increase.
But in the challenge of it is we're seeking, so we'd have to keep it as an example because it hasn't been ratified or approved. So we have to walk this fine balances. We want to inform people of what it is, but we don't want it to appear as a communication or a notice that it is changing to these rates. So we have to be very careful on that because it could serve as official notice in certain interpretations.
So that's why in this situation, less would be somewhat better.
Oh.
Because if we give out the information that we're looking at everything between 5 to 12% increases, people are going to automatically assume the 12% increase is coming.
You're freaking me out. You keep getting higher. You said 5 to 10. Now you're 5 to 12.
Sorry, 5 to 10. 5 to 10. That was.
I'm like,
I
don't have to
misspoke.
12.
I misspoke. We have 5, 7, and 10 included in
Can we
here.
make it 2 to 7%?
Negative 2%.
We'll have to see. Again, that would be a discussion for in camera.
Councilor Little?
Two things. First one was those dates that you have, the February 19th, March, and those. Would you be able to send those extra dates out as an email invite so I can add those to my calendar?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, as much as I write it on a scrap of paper and stick it in my pocket, I'll find it next time I wear the suit jacket.
Yeah, the next meeting.
And then the other thing that I wanted to make a point of was, with this, I like these 4 options because it gives people the idea, it gives them an option when they look at it. Because things to think about is a tax rate increase, that's a once a year hits you in the pocketbook, right? A service rate increase, that's a bi-monthly, right? Because that's each bill. So people need to look and see what their options are. The options are you're gonna get hit with an increase.
Yeah.
The question is, do you want it as a smaller bite-sized monthly increase? Or do you want it as a one lump sum yearly increase? Or do you want a combination of both, is the way I see this. And the nice thing with this is it depends on people's, well, it's one of those things, one's gonna have to work for everybody, but it's one of those things that it gives people the option, right? And then we can actually explain to them, like, look, we need to do this. And then again, coming back to, instead of saying, 10.76%, say this impacts the average household because we have the ability to see what people's costs are and what the increase is. Just say, again, coming back to that round number saying, this affects the average household by $20 more a month, or $40 more a year, or whatever that number might be. Because I think, 10%, most people are like 10%, and then they're trying to do math, and most of us suck at math. Where if you tell me it's gonna cost me an extra $300 a year, or $400 a year, or $50 a year, or whatever that number, that's a little more tangible, because I can be like, okay, I'm not buying any extra coffees this month.
I would just,
Make that happen.
for transparency, I'd like to be upfront, honest, and realistic. The 10.76, the increase of the water service rate, we have no control over that. That is happening.
And that's where that background paragraph comes from.
Yes. So
But
that
we
is,
can include an actual monetary figure with that as well.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest thing that scares people, because even like our tax increases, people are like, oh my goodness, 10, 15%. Well, on average, it worked out to about $50, $60 a household.
Maybe 120 on the
Like
extreme
it
case.
it was
wasn't,
120 on the high end.
yeah, so like it wasn't, like it, the $120 at the end of the year isn't that large of a sum, really, right?
No.
It is, but it isn't. So I think that's where it's a little more, a lot more palatable.
It's easier to chew on, yes.
Yeah.
Councilor Wall?
Could we bold, because we have it bold, the 10.76% bold. My suggestion is that we bold in alignment with higher operational costs mandated by the city of Dawson Creek. Because I mean, a lot of people will look at this and they'll go, okay, 10.76, what the heck, and then see the options down here and not read the rest. But if we bolded that, be like, actually, this is Dawson Creek ramming this on us. We don't have a choice, right? Even though it already says if we bolded that, it'd be like,
Yeah, and this is a rate, remember, this is a rate that's being increased for everybody. So this is affecting the PRD, it's affecting Dawson Creek
Yes.
resident, and it's affecting Booscapee.
it's,
So,
but this isn't coming from us.
No, it's
this
not
is coming from Dawson Creek, and we're just kind of stuck with this extra bill because we use their service.
yeah, we due to our service agreement, yeah.
But we can augment that change if public office agrees.
The other question I was gonna ask you about your report, if we're okay to move on from the water, is everybody okay with the?
The only last one is details to be determined. What venue are we proposing to utilize? The village office, the community center?
Most likely the community center.
Okay, so we've got more space for folks.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
My question I was gonna ask you was about the consolidated user fee bylaw and that sort of that user fee schedule. I just wanted to kind of make it so that the public is aware that these user fee increases, they're in line with other communities in the area that are roughly our size, right? Like we're not, reinventing the wheel or doing something outright. Like our fees right now are not in line because they're so low. And that's affecting the municipality, and so we're actually looking to get them in line with other communities within the region. Is that correct?
Correct. So for example, District of Chetwynd, they went through a 5.5%, I believe, service fee increase all across the board back in December. So, we may be looking at a number similar ballpark, maybe a little bit lower, but this will be very normal practice just for making up for the requirement for building up a revenue base for future aspirations.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure that the public was aware that we weren't doing anything like, crazy or unheard of.
No.
They tend to sometimes
Those will
think
be
that.
within precedent.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Wall?
I do want to bounce a comment off of your comment there. Just because Chetwynd or Dawson or Tumbler Ridge or Taylor or any other municipality in the region increases their service fees, we shouldn't use that as a metric to then increase ours. We are increasing our service fees because we have to, because of the service agreement we have by using Dawson Creek's water infrastructure.
Well, no, this is like, these are service fees. So the service fees here are like things, give me an example.
Licensing,
Licensing,
permitting,
permitting, yeah.
permits. This could be pet license. This could be administrative tasks such as an FOI request.
Yeah.
This could be outsourcing public works in some capacity. A lot of different things.
Should we be looking at this instead of looking at it in a way going, hey, well, they upped the price, therefore we should up our price? I think we should look at it in a different way and go, hey, how much does somebody applying for a building permit cost us in staff time?
That's
How much
what
does
we're
it
doing.
cost?
How much does it cost? And then make our fees associate, instead of looking at it going, well, this is what they did, we could look at it and go, how much does it actually cost us? We're not trying to make money off
We do
these
that,
services.
Councillor. We do that. Everything's based off a cost recovery model. So when we're having this meeting on January 13th with the staff, we're exploring 14, 16, 28, 32% but it's a wide range of cost recovery models depending on what the component of service is.
Yeah.
Right?
And there are some things that we're charging less than what we pay. Because it has been reviewed in like over a decade.
Yes.
Like we've found quite a few of those.
I just don't want the public who's
Yeah.
watching this to think that we are increasing these costs or talking about increasing these costs
Just
because other people increase their costs.
Yeah,
We're increasing these costs potentially going forward because the costs of providing these permits and providing these services is going up.
One of the biggest things the public is going to be hearing a lot from us is a lot of the words like cost recovery, cost increases, user fees, tax rates. They're going to be hearing that a lot. The reason why they're going to be hearing that a lot is because we have made a large new staff change. The village has been the same for a very long time, and that remaining the same may feel great at the time when you're paying less, but it's actually costing the municipality more.
In the long run.
And so it's these things that we have all identified in the past 2.5 years we've been sitting in these seats. These are a lot of the conversations we've been having. We haven't been able to get a lot of those changes done without outsourcing to things like urban systems, urban matters, or having somebody come in. We now have Mr. Swalski. He has the experience, he has the education to do the changes that we've been wanting to see for the past 2.5 years since we got in. Because many of us, if not all of us, ran on fiscal sustainability and fiscal responsibility. And this is getting us to achieving that. So while it's going to be really overwhelming this year for 2025 when you're hearing cost recovery, user fees, taxes, that is going to be really overwhelming and people are going to feel very overwhelmed. This is the thing we all committed to when we ran, and this is making sure that when our time in these chairs are done, we've stuck to that commitment, whether it's difficult or not. I live in this community, I totally get it. My husband is not super pleased either, but at the same time, we need to make sure that this municipality is saving for the future and is making enough money to recover the costs it's currently spending. Councillor Wolf.
Yes, so the point I'm trying to make here is we do need to increase our costs, or increase our service costs to the public, because the costs behind the scenes have increased so much due to inflation in the last. Now our current fees, we're losing money in a lot of these services.
A lot of them, yes.
Yes, and one way or another, that money has to come from somewhere. Either it's coming from a tax increase, or it's coming from service level decrease. Like we can it's a service level conversation. Do we want our services to remain the same? Do we want to reduce services and maintain our costs? Do we want to increase our taxes or service fees? I just don't want that conversation to be sidelined because people think, oh well, because Dawson increased their costs, we're just upping ours arbitrarily. I don't want that conversation.
This is fiscal sustainability and responsibility.
We've been losing money for quite a while,
Yes.
and we've made it 90 years, 95 years in this community almost, 93 years, something like that.
Over 100, I think, aren't we, or something?
No, 1932.
Oh, yeah, like it close.
So we've made it over 90 years. To make it another 90 years, we need to make sure that we balance our books.
Yes.
And that is a conversation that has to happen about either passing these additional costs on to people using these services or reducing our service levels. And that's a really tough conversation to have, but that is a conversation that needs to happen.
Absolutely. Councillor Rebel.
Well, the other thing too, in all honesty, is I'd love to buy an orange for 5 cents, but it doesn't cost 5 cents to grow the orange.
Not anymore, no.
But the other thing too is people utilizing these specific things. You know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. These specific things, that cost should be retained or due to the person utilizing it, but not borne by the entire group. So, you know, as you're saying, somebody's got to pay somewhere. If it's the entire tax base paying for this guy's decision or that person's decision or whatever, and it actually still costs us, well, that's actually not very fair, right? If you live in the village and you only do so many things a year and you pay your taxes, okay, fair enough. But buddy who keeps, needs all these different things, great on him, is advancing his property and advancing all the other things, but
Should be at the expense of everyone else.
so, but the other double whammy here that I like with the 2 bird 1 stone situation is we're also consolidating all these fees that are in all these different bylaws that would require numerous bylaws changes just consolidated them all together so they can easily be viewable, reviewable, and are transparent. And then if changes are needed, it's just some sort of schedule or appendix that can be updated in the future. Yeah.
And it meets one of the recommendation requirements from the interim audit letter, which was that issue of how did this utility deficit end up happening? Right, well, this is the situation that it arose from.
Which one are we referring to? Which bylaw, which esoteric thing in some file?
Where can we find it? Can we access it? This
Yeah.
is all really relevant subject matter, right?
So I think it's a double whammy.
Councillor Whittle?
No, I think this is good because with this too, like we've seen it come up now this year, and that there's been things that have fallen through the gaps, and like the infrastructure fees that we were talking about earlier, and that results in the fact that now we're having to eat up our tax base, and the whole point of increasing our taxes to begin with was to offset our operational costs to get us back on track. So essentially what we're doing is we're doing 2 steps forward, 1 step back by not increasing, we're eating the cost of this, because where does the money come from? It comes out of our tax base, right? Something that's less, it comes out of our tax base, and essentially at the end of the day, if you take into account the fact that we're charging less for a lot of these services than what it actually costs, the fact that there is some utility oopses, and charging that essentially eats up a good portion of the tax increase that we just did.
Or all of it.
If not all of it. The previous year, we allocated money to other things, which, again, through the budgeting process, ate up that entire tax increase, and it still didn't go towards the bottom line, which is we need to increase taxes to cover our operational costs to keep the village doors open. Right, at the end of the day, we need the money to pay staff and to keep our equipment ready. Right, the fact that we have the ice rink, which is nice, or the outdoor rink, or the fact that our streets are beautifully plowed, those are service level things that we can look at, and really at the end of the day, cleaning this up allows us to keep those service levels where they're at and actually make our tax increases meaningful. Otherwise, we're essentially, for lack of a better word, pissing in the wind.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that, we just need to keep focusing the community on what we ran on and sticking to our commitments of sustainability and responsibility. Those are many of the things that we preached in our platform. That's what we're trying to get to. We are getting there.
And cost-wise, we're still more economic to live in Pouce Coupe than it is to live in any of our neighboring municipalities, because we have access to all the same infrastructure and a lot of that stuff without the additional cost.
Or look at the provincial scale as well. You can live in Pouce Coupe and buy a house for $200,000, have a reasonably low tax rate of maybe $1,000 to $2,000 a year. In some of the newer neighborhoods, it's more expensive, but
When you're within an hour and a half drive to major airports that you can fly anywhere you want, where if you live in the Lower Mainland, it takes you that long just to drive
you're
across
living
the
in a
border.
$5 million house, paying $20,000 a year in property taxes. It takes you longer to get anywhere anyway. Yeah. So we actually have a very good quality of life, and I don't want to take away from that fact, talking about these service increases and service charge increases and whatnot. We have it very fortunate where we are.
Councillor Rebel?
Tying to tangible examples, but also, yes, with the quality of life. People do choose Pouce because it's affordable. Affordability is a big thing, especially with everything being extremely unaffordable, but the economic cycle is tragic. But who knows? Who knows what the future brings, but our responsibility is to ensure that this village survives into the future. That's our ultimate goal at the end of the day. So we have to make sure that we're able to actually afford what's going on here. To not afford it is to be stupid and to live paycheck to paycheck or less. And then we're not indebted, but the risk is becoming indebted or unable to provide the services. And then it becomes a bad place to live. We do not want that. We've got to prevent that car from crashing. Right? Keep the car on the road and keep it in good maintenance. Sometimes your transmission breaks. Sometimes you need to replace your tires. Sometimes you got to change the oil. Regular maintenance. We got to do that and set that money aside. I'm sorry, it costs money, but we have to be reasonable with it, right? And understand the human factor behind this.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on. So all those in favor of proceeding for information? And that's unanimously carried. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, moving on to capital and special projects. I must say I really like this layout, Mr. Solsky. I like the time that you put into really highlighting each area, so thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Anybody has any questions regarding capital special projects?
It's not a question. I like how it's set up, even though you just said it. I think the way you've laid it out here is a lot more legible and easier to understand than just a little timetable, basically, with red, yellow, green. This provides a lot of background information. A member of the public could look at this and go, oh, this is where we're at. This is actually what we're doing. So anyway, why did it go from red to yellow? You know, right?
Members of the council will.
Yeah. Thank you for this.
Councilor Rebel?
Regarding the sewage lagoon, so the bonus aggregate was deemed ineligible for grant funding. We're still going to utilize it to deal with that access road. What kind of cost are we going to have to bear because of that?
Oh, we're probably looking at about $15,000 to $30,000 possibly.
But it'll be nice to have a road that doesn't eat every truck that drives on it.
And that's the whole point of the revitalization of the access road, to repair all that rutting,
The amount of
repair the
damage.
grade. The grade is a big consideration as well. So as much as we would love to, have group purchasing power to stage some additional aggregate and use it for future projects and repurpose it, I can understand why that's not an eligible expense. And we still have plans to retrofit and repurpose what is going to be utilized for that aggregate, which is all those road activities outlined.
And how long is that road that we're going to be repurposing with that?
I believe it's about 1.5 kilometers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it's bad. It's bad.
That's a good way to describe it.
It's the road out to the lagoon.
It's a
Yeah,
rough one.
it's really, really,
And
really
a lot of
bad.
the heavy equipment has
And
really affected it this year.
I don't think it's been gravelled in
No,
years.
that will be part of this process as well. It's going through the geotechnical grade,
Okay.
adding that geograde, and then add also the aggregate on top of it, right?
Yeah, and frankly, with the amount that our public works guys are driving back and forth on that road, the wear and tear that it's having on our vehicles as well is kind of been a bit concerning because it's so terrible. So I am glad to see that something's going to be happening with that. Thank you. It's wonderful news. Okay. Any other discussion, Councilor Rowell?
Will the cost of this aggregate be borne by the 2024 capital budget or the 2025 capital budget?
It'll be a 2025 expense.
Councilor Rowell?
Under the OCP update, the housing policy additions regarding the creation development of a vacant land map and housing type analysis to meet provincial requirements, is there an additional cost incurred to have this map?
No,
map-
that was
maps
what
generated?
we discussed in the original overage change order in a previous council meeting.
So that's
all
was
covered
covered.
in the original scope of that.
Councilor Whittle?
So not the only, over and above what we talked about with that previous council meeting for the overages, the only other really overage, we're looking at some really an overage is the $30,000 to repair the road. Which is kind of needed.
It was going to be required anyways at some point, so.
Oh, it's bad.
Well, the thing is, though, that $30,000, like, the wear and tear, like I mentioned, on the vehicles, or, God forbid, we have a contractor down there and something happens.
We do have a contractor driving on it right now.
Yeah, something happens.
Not currently, we're up till about a month ago.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the other thing is, vehicles get stuck in that, or you have a breakdown, or they damage equipment now that leads to delays in our project, so it's one of those things, we're always gonna need access to.
Well, and the sewage lagoon is one of our only critical assets we have.
Yeah.
Watershed's one of them. We can't access a critical asset. Well, we're really putting ourselves in that Venn diagram of that matrix of risk. And we're on the high side rather than that low side once that happens.
We're in the red, we're in the red.
Yes, exactly. So
No more red, yellow, green.
No, we wanna play in the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the goal. At least get to yellow.
Councilor Rowell?
In regards to the water increase foisted upon us by the city of Dawson Creek, is that effective January 1st, 2025, and then implemented potentially April 1st, 2025 for the village of Pooskoopi?
Correct. So we're looking at 2 billing cycles there.
So we're padding it in the meantime.
We are, yeah.
Is kind of what's going on. So we're already in the midst of this because we need the proper time to
Alert the public.
alert the public, prepare the, have
It's the
hearings
initial
and the other pieces.
water increase all over again.
Sudden.
Well, this is what we
Sudden
did.
for-
when it
At
first-
least it's not doubling. This
we
time
ate
around.
3 to 6 months the first time this water increase got put onto us. Instead of hitting the village, the residents with all of a sudden an increase overnight, it was phased in over 3 months. And it was one of the things that we actually brought up when we were on council then, because that was a pretty big hit.
This won't be as extreme.
Yeah. Yes.
But does justification, obviously justification must be provided somewhere within their analysis of this to legitimize this rate. Are we able to have that justification? I assume it's buried somewhere in one of their council meetings or
We'll
several
actually have
council
some
meetings.
allusions to that in our in-camera discussion.
Okay. Justification like chlorine increases or wage increases or facilities maintenance or whatever it may be.
Okay, I put the motion on the floor to receive for information. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Whittle, thank you. All right, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. I realized I didn't make that motion, I'm sorry. I was like, wait, I forgot something. Okay, now we're on to us. See, I was getting there. Councilor Johnston.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Besides
I know.
Christmas, I've been working like 10, 11 every night. I'm just about done now, so I can focus on other things here coming up.
Oh, you might get a life eventually?
Well, I don't know.
What will you do with yourself with a life?
Don't know. We're gonna figure it out. Though. Other than that, I don't have much else.
Okay, have you heard any more from the oil and gas or anything?
No, I was reading my email. I didn't even see an update.
There's nothing coming up?
Nothing for Christmas or anything, no.
Okay, all right. I know that Enbridge reached out and they got approval for their Aspen project out of Hudson Hope. So I knew that was coming up, which is very exciting. They did reach out potentially to come in and meet and give us an update.
Perfect.
So I know I have a park I'm trying to get built, so I totally want them to come over. And
An office park?
yeah.
So confusing.
I can't wait to see them. Yeah, so we are going to be bringing them. The Aspen project did get approved, so it's an addition to what pipeline is it added onto? It's the
Well, I'm not familiar, unfortunately, with that one.
I forget what pipeline.
I have.
Trans Canada?
No, Northern
No.
Gateway, isn't it? It's going to Kitimat?
Yes.
Yeah, Northern
Yeah.
Gateway.
Thank you. It was one of those. Anyway, so that was very exciting. So they are potentially going to be coming out to visit us. So I'm super stoked to see them. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rabble.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, welcome to 2025. So yeah, mostly took time off in the Christmas season. It was nice, but anywho's, I guess it's we're gonna rejig from our previous council portfolios to the new ones. If anyone wishes to discuss the portfolios that I had, in the handover thing, let me know, right? Museum was James, or Councillor Wall
This will
previously.
be my last museum report today.
Potentially, nobody's adopted them yet, so don't
Oh, we haven't
forget.
adopted them
We're
yet?
not technically, no.
The portfolios?
No, hasn't been done yet.
I thought we
did.
I know, it went back for review because you guys want to make some
I think we
changes.
did adopt them. We did.
No, I think we did
Yeah.
adopt
We
Yeah.
did
it.
adopt them.
I thought we
We're
did.
just waiting for template letters.
Me and you were evidently sleeping during that meeting.
I know we were waiting on the template letters, but I thought it was in a holding pattern until the template letters came in. Because
We'll have to follow up. I believe we did motion them.
Because then it led to the whole letters getting
Because
sent
the
to.
letters-
Yes.
We were sleeping during this meeting, so it's fine.
Well, it's not.
Oh, that was a long one too. That was a quite long one.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was the one that went on forever. Yeah, let's never do that ever again. Pinky swears. Okay.
Anywho's, basically rejigged from the old to the new. It's good stuff. There is a schnitzel night happening at the Legion this Friday. So that will be doors open at 3:30, plated by 6 kind of thing. Yeah, so that's always good stuff. It's
What
always
is
good.
this? This Friday is January the...
10th, January 10th. Yeah, Friday, January 10th. There's some other news and some other developments, but maybe I'll hold that until next council meeting.
Sure.
Yeah. But anyways, exciting times and welcome to the new millennium.
Welcome to the new year. Hey man, I was part of the era where in 2000 we all thought the world was going to end, so.
I'm just saying, 2025 will be a very different year.
sort of the beta generation.
Yeah, that's right.
I say new millennium because it's actually going to be quite a shift. Like going forward, the next 25 years will not look the same as the previous 25 years.
Potentially new federal government in the US,
Yeah.
pensions, provinces, who knows?
It'll be very
it's gonna be
interesting.
next year.
Lack of money all the way around.
Yeah, pretty much.
If I may, because it's
Provincial
a
and federal governments have overspent.
well, if I may, because it's a report, I've been hearing some interesting whispers about uncertainty with parts and components coming from the States already. I've heard because of potential tariffs or
Yeah.
so-called potential tariffs from a person who hasn't actually assumed office yet. But anywho's,
You mean the person that wants to annex us?
so well, there's a lot of confusion and uncertainty right now, and in these trying times, it's interesting for sure. But we've got to make sure that we have a steady hand in our leadership and make sure that business keeps rolling and that people keep employed and that certainty and sanity return.
Mm-hmm. Cooler heads prevail and all that jazz. Councillor Wall.
I'll start with a report, ending on Councillor Rappel's report there, where in a time where our federal government is basically non-existent and we're dealing with tariffs and threats from other countries and the provincial governments are stepping up to basically act as the federal government, I think it is very important that we as a municipal government really keep a level head, and I know that's something coming from me. And keep our hands steady, because I think we'll have a difficult next couple of months going forward with everything happening. That being said, I did have a conversation with the museum curator. They're looking into what historical assets we might have in the village that could help them get additional funding, and they might come to council sometime in the next 6 months as a delegation with information regarding what addresses or what items they have that might be of interest to the village.
Okay.
That's the end of my museum reports, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know who's the museum guy next.
That'd be
And
Councillor.
you can follow up on that at some point.
Yeah.
I held a Legion meeting. Since tonight's this Friday, we did get a grant from Ovintiv at the Legion for $9,000.
Yay!
It's going to be helping us with our accessibility and things like that.
That's wonderful news.
Looking really. Building needs some work. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
Fantastic.
So because I have a new portfolio now, right? So
Yep.
Site C Reservoir is filling. The river is still closed and will remain closed between Old Fort and Hudson's Hope until the end of 2026 as of right now. So don't go near that reservoir. BC Hydro is being very serious about making sure you're not boating or going out on the lake.
was a 2-year project. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reservoir is still filling. The ice on the lake is moving. It might not be thin. It's not a regular lake. It is shifting and filling, and it's a whole situation, and potentially slopping. Again, let's not go into that. So, if you are in the area and want to do some outdoor activities, do not go to Site C or the new lake, whatever it might be called. There's no name yet. I did also attend the special council meeting today about an hour and a half ago.
Desperate times call for desperate
That's
measures,
a good
right?
one.
2 hours ago. I was here and we had a special council meeting. Other than that,
You just enjoyed Christmas.
I did enjoy Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year's. And looking forward to potentially being at the resource forum, depending on how the waiting list
Goes, yeah, the
Yes.
joys.
If I may ask that you send me the information as soon as possible, because I have other things happening, so I could change those as soon as I know. For sure.
We're hoping for follow-up by the end of the week.
That'd be perfect.
That's good. Okay, Councillor Whittle, what you been up to?
Christmas,
Yeah.
New Year's, and yeah, that's about it actually. For the last little while, just waiting for the letters to go out and then get the appropriate contacts for the new portfolios. Because yeah, in all my time on council, I've pretty much dealt with the same few portfolios. So yeah, and then seeing how their meetings fit into my schedule.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now it's off to me. Well, yes, thank you very much. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. I had a wonderful Christmas. I was out of town and Mr. Councillor Whittle was manning the helm. Thank you for not blowing or exploding anything. Big thank you to Mr. Sobolski, you probably guarded from the office. Great job.
I sent one text message, and
That was it. Awesome.
If you need me, here's how to get a hold of me. Merry Christmas, see you next year.
No, everything went really, really well. I think it was quite a peaceful trip for me, actually. I barely even looked at my phone. I actually forgot to even connect it to the internet for like 3 days. So I've never done that before.
Good for you.
I know.
That's nice.
Yeah. Admittance is the first step, so I'm getting there. It was really, really good. I came back after the new year and it was all hands on deck and feet are running, as it tends to often be. And so since coming back, I've managed to meet with staff quite a few times, just to kind of catch up on a few things that have come to light that we've been dealing with over the past couple of weeks. On the 3rd, that was mainly when I sat down with staff and just kind of connected with them. On January 7th, I met with the fire chief, PRD, RCMP, BC Ambulance, and Southeast Crime Prevention, regarding emergency services in the region, which we normally meet about every 3 months. So that was really, really good. And then January 7th, I also met with Courtney from the Pusquebec Public Library. I'm going to be bringing forward a report to council looking to do something for Family Day. I think it would be really, really cool if we did something that weekend, and the Pusquebec Public Library is willing to team up. So it would be work between us as this council body and the Pusquebec Public Library. So if you're available, that'd be great. And I'll have more information at the next council meeting to kind of bring forward to you guys. So my PRD meeting was on December 6th. There really wasn't much on there regarding us. The only thing that did come up was a recommendation under Electoral Directors Committee recommendations from November 14th. So what they're currently looking at is they would like to discuss the funding of the Emergency and Disaster Management and whether the requirements of the Emergency Management and Disaster Act are to be funded by the electoral areas or by everybody. So what's currently happening is we all kind of pay a pot, or we all manage our own emergency disasters management through the act. We're all currently managing it, but what they're looking at is doing a regional committee as well. And so the concern there is that, well, municipalities don't want to pay twice. We're already sort of doing a lot of that work. So it's looking at how we can create a regional committee without municipalities being double charged. So they are looking at that for the future. That is going to be coming back around. And now we're just kind of waiting. Let me see what the motion was on that, actually. Hang on. Yeah, they're going to be bringing that forward to a committee of the whole meeting before March 2025. So I'm going to have more information regarding that. And they don't know if they're going to be creating a regional committee, a sub-regional committee. There's going to be a lot more coming around about that. But there is definitely looking at something to do with the Emergency Management and Disasters Act on a regional platform. So I'll bring that information back to you guys when I know more about it. And yeah, we've just been running. We're about to get into budget, guys, so like sleep lots, eat lots, drink lots of coffee. The madness of budget season is coming upon us, and we are going to be doing a lot more public engagement this year than we have in previous years. And I just really want to stress the importance of that united voice, right? We are looking to reach fiscal responsibility, fiscal sustainability, and not everybody is going to be happy. Change is super hard. But we just need to make sure that if you have any comments or questions that make you go, ooh, I don't know how to answer that, reach out to Mr. Sobolski. Because the more united information that we can provide and the more information that is, I don't want to be like legit, but it's like the same, the better. Because if we start giving too many examples that aren't lining up with everybody else, that creates that confusion, which kind of tied into the whole fire hall thing. I was really thinking about that. I was like, that's totally what happened. We had too many answers that didn't coincide, and it created a little bit of that community unrest. And I really want to make sure, especially going into this budget season, as we are doing a lot, Mr. Sobolski is working with staff really, really hard to hold us fiscally responsible, that we are answering with the most informed information we possibly have. So if you guys ever have a question or a comment that comes to you, don't be afraid to say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. Okay? That's kind of my only soapbox standing thing for tonight. Okay, perfect. All right, well, looks like we're moving on to question period. We don't have anybody here, sadly. Where are our friends? Oh, I miss Mr. Grant. I have to find him. Miss Mr. Grant. We're going to move on to our in-camera section as per 91C of the community charter. So C, labor relations. E, the acquisition, deposition of expiration. I can never say this word. Expropriation. Thank you, of land or improvement. And K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provisions of a municipal service. Seconded by Councillor Woodall. All those in Wall. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor. Moving into the close. Yeah, just
Did they vote or?
yeah, no, they